Hey guys, it's Alexis, aka The Soft Reader, and I'm here today to do a video where I'm basically gonna talk to you guys about the top fantasy books on my TBR. This was actually a Top 5 Wednesday topic last week, but I basically couldn't narrow it down to 5 because I was like, there's so many fantasy books I want to read. Fantasy is my favorite genre, so I have like a never-ending TBR list for fantasy, so I figured I'd go ahead and make a video about it so I can really tell you guys the top 10 books that are kind of on my TBR. The first ones I'm going to mention are all books that were on my to read in 2017 list, so yeah, so definitely there were a couple on there that I still haven't gotten to that I was like, gotta mention those. The first one I'm going to mention is the Grisha trilogy by Leigh Bardugo. I know, I still haven't read this yet, and I need to. I have every book in the series and the Six of Crows duology, and I just haven't gotten around to actually picking it up yet, but I know I'm going to enjoy the series when I finally do, just because it's like a Russian fantasy setting. I've read short stories from Leigh Bardugo and I like her writing. I just need to buckle down and actually get to the Grisha trilogy. The next one I'm going to mention is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I've had this book for a very long time, and I finally want to get to it this year because I know that it's so many people's favorite book, so I really want to get around to it. This is basically just about a magical circus and two competing magicians who are like competing for, I guess, like a spot in the circus. I'm not 100% sure, but so many people absolutely adore this book, so I need to just get to it. The next one I'm going to mention is The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. I read Mistborn last year, and I enjoyed it, and so I definitely want to get to The Well of Ascension this year, especially because this is one of my brother's favorite series, and so he keeps bugging me relentlessly to pick up the rest of the books, so I definitely want to get to this at some point this year, but I'm pretty excited to see where this series goes after the ending of Book 1 wrapped up pretty nicely. The next one is the Heroes of Olympus series by Rick Riordan. You guys know I'm reading the Percy Jackson books this year, but I also want to read the Heroes of Olympus. So I'm kind of excited to get to this series to start it because I know that it's different from the Percy Jackson books, so I'm kind of excited to get to this one to kind of see, you know, what my thoughts are on it. The next one is A Torch Against the Night by Saba Tahir. An Ember in the Ashes was one of my favorite books of 2015, but for some reason when A Torch Against the Night came out, I never picked it up. So I definitely plan to read this one before the third book comes out. I want to say maybe this upcoming September, so I definitely want to pick this up before then, because like I said, I did really enjoy An Ember in the Ashes, and so I'm excited to get back into this series and see where the story goes. The next one is more like a series I want to complete, and that's A Song of Ice and Fire by George R. R. Martin. I read the first 3 books in this series when I was in high school, so that's A Game of Thrones, A Clash of Kings, and A Storm of Swords. And I got halfway through the 4th book in the series, A Feast for Crows, and I ended up DNFing it just because it was really hard for me to get through, and at that point it was just not really working for me. But I do love this series a lot. And I find myself always wanting to go back and read these books again, so I would like to complete the series, and maybe even just start from the beginning and start over with A Game of Thrones again. I don't know, but I definitely would like to complete the Song of Ice and Fire series. Next is another sequel I just haven't picked up yet, and that is King's Cage by Victoria Aveyard. This was one of my most anticipated releases of 2017, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. I read Glass Sword around this time last year, so I probably will get to this one in the next couple of months, but I actually really enjoy the series. I know not everybody does, but I really enjoy it, and so I've had a lot of people say that King's Cage was really good, so I'm very excited to see what happens in this book and how I feel about everything. The next one is kind of a hunker of a book, both in terms of the people who follow it and an actual page number, and that is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Again, this is probably actually one of my brother's favorite series, and he keeps begging me to read it, but I keep telling him that I won't read it until the 3rd book is out, which means I'm going to be waiting forever. But I do really want to read this just because I know so many people absolutely adore this series, and it's becoming a movie with Lin-Manuel Miranda is going to do all the music, which is super exciting, but I do want to get to this eventually just because I do love high fantasy so much, and I know that music is like a big component of the story, and so my brother keeps telling me that's one reason why I absolutely love it, so I'm excited to go ahead and get to this one eventually whenever it happens. The next one I'm going to mention is Sabriel by Garth Nix. This is kind of one of those classic old school fantasies that I just never read. I'm trying to collect I think it's the Australian editions. I have the third book in the series, but I don't have the first two. If you want to know why I have the third book in the series, go watch my December book haul where I explained why this happened. But I'm trying to collect the Australian editions because I really like them. But I know that this is such an old school fantasy book, and a lot of people really love this series. And I'm trying to read a lot more of the old school fantasy stuff, so I definitely would like to get to the series. The last series I'm going to mention, because of course, these are all series, because fantasy standalones are a dime a dozen, is the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb, or honestly, I just kind of want to start getting into Robin Hobb's books, period. But I know to start with the Farseer trilogy, which starts with the Assassin's Apprentice. Robin Hobb is such a huge name in fantasy, and I haven't read any of her stuff. I'd like to read some of that old school fantasy, so I definitely want to get to her books. I have the first one on my Kindle, and it's just a matter of like sitting down and actually getting to, but I do really want to start getting into Robin Hobb's books. Alright guys, so those were the basically top 10 fantasy books on my TBR list. I would say about half of these I definitely plan to get to in 2017. There's a good chance I won't get to some of them, like The Name of the Wind. But I definitely do plan to read at least half of these this year, if not more. So I'm really excited to go ahead and just get into these, of course. Fantasy is my favorite genre, but you guys should let me know down below what your favorite fantasy book is, favorite series. I'm always looking for recommendations. Or if you just want to go ahead and tell me what's the top fantasy book on your TBR list, I'd love to see you guys down in the comments, and I'll see you guys soon with another video.